Salutations everyone, this is Razor giving you guys my first impressions and thoughts on ARMS. We had the Global Test Punch, which is Nintendo's weird way of doing a beta for 1 hour at a time for 2 to 3 times a day for 6 days over the course of 2 weeks. Just like Splatoon. It's weird, it's wonky, but I did get a couple hours in. Wanted to let you guys know what I thought about the game in my time with it. Now, this was just the friendly online component of the game, so there are a few game modes. There was the 1v1, like you see me doing right here. There's a 2v2. There's a 3-player versus 1 enemy CPU-controlled boss, which really puts like a really evil Geodude that has 4 arms on top of an existing character. So that has 6 arms and fights 3 players, and you know, that's whatever. And there's also like a target thing that's kind of weird, and you'll see that later on in the video. So ARMS is a very interesting game. It's Nintendo's first new IP since Splatoon, and Splatoon, I believe, being the only original IP coming out of the last generation of consoles on the Wii U. This is the Switch's first, and they're getting it done right out of the gate. A lot of people were, you know, quasi-interested, you know, a little curious about, you know, this game. It's clearly a fighting game. It's brand new. It's made by Nintendo, so it's obviously going to have a lot of people's vote of confidence straight out of the gate. You know, it's got that Nintendo seal of quality right on there. And after the Nintendo Direct that really focused on ARMS and announced the Global Test Punch, people really got interested in the game. They got to see a lot more characters, a lot more game footage, and you know, combat and how the game would work. So it's a very simple, you know, very Nintendo-esque, family-friendly fighting game. You know, you have a bunch of different characters that have different properties, like, you know, their throws will do different damage. You know, like 150 damage or 200 damage. They'll have access to a variety of arms. Not every character is going to have the same access to the same arms, and you'll be able to have, you know, one of, you know, you can choose between many different kinds. I'm sure there'll be more in the game proper, you know, possibly with DLC as well. So, you know, you pick, you know, whichever 2 that you want on your arms. Yes, you can use motion control, but you can also use any other type of controller that you should so desire. You can put your Joy-Cons together like, you know, a normal game controller and play the game that way, not have to worry about the motion control aspect of it, or with the Pro Controller. So all of that stuff is perfectly fine. It plays very, very well with or without motion controls. Obviously, I prefer without motion controls because why would you ever want to use motion controls in any video game ever made? That's just me though. That's just me. So the way that the game works, as you can see here, it's going to be a small arena, at least in, you know, the 1v1 aspect of things, and they're going to be the same maps as you get in the 2v2 and the 3v1. And it's very, very simple. All you can do is punch with the right arm, punch with the left arm, punch with both at the same time is your grab. And you can dash one way or the other, as well as jump, and you have some sort of energy or rage meter, and that can be filled up as well. And there are going to be, at times, objects that appear on the field that will, you know, heal you if you're there. It will increase your juice factor or whatever their, you know, rage mode or, you know, Super Saiyan-ness that you saw me use with Mechanica there. Previously, as well as bombs or electric bombs that can drop, and you would want to punch that so it gets near your opponent so they can get screwed up. So here's the target mode. I'm not a big fan of this mode. It's definitely very much in favor of the Mummy here, because he can, or in Mechanica, because you can just use 2 of the triple shot. Is really good at hitting the targets as well as hitting your opponent, because there's going to be 3 things for them to dodge. With the targets in the way, they're not going to always see them. And I'm not a big fan of this mode, because like the scoring doesn't seem to make a bunch of sense. Obviously, you want to hit the targets for points. You can also hit your opponents for points, and if you pick them up, you toss them to the side, and they can't do anything for, you know, a couple of seconds. Happens to me a couple of times. I do it to the enemy a couple of times, but we absolutely trounce them by a lot just because of the way that the game works. So we aren't very sure how the quote-unquote meta is going to be for this game, which characters are going to be the best, which arms are going to be the best. Obviously, I think it's going to be, like somewhat of a matchup thing, but obviously there will be one or two characters and or arms that are just inherently better. And here's the 3v1 game mode against this AI-controlled opponent with 6 arms that is a bit of a bitch at times, but we take care of business. So, punch, grab, strafe, jump, and block. Those are the only movement options. So, very, very simple. Not a very technical game. Obviously doesn't need to be. Most fighters aren't. And the differences in characters weren't huge. Obviously, some characters would do more with their throw, like Twin Tail here. Some would have access to some better arms that are, maybe this is better in 1v1, maybe this is better against the boss, maybe this is better in the targets, like I mentioned. So, but obviously I think there is obviously going to be, a balance issue. I feel like it's going to be a lot like Pokken. It's made by, controlled by Nintendo, and it's going to be very, very simple and family friendly, and there's going to be, a couple of cheese strats that are just going to be the buy all and be all thing to do for the most part, at the, not like super high competitive level of things to do, but obviously that can translate as well. So as far as like how the stats went with the global test punch, the 2 most used characters were Ninjara, the dude with the chains that you saw me fight in the second game of this video, and Twin Tail was the second most used. And as far as win percentage goes, and I don't know if this is across all of the game modes or just the 1v1s, but the highest win percentage characters were Ribbon Girl and then Mechanica. As far as the characters that I felt were very strong, there was a lot of Ninjaras. Ninjara was this team of Ninjara and Ribbon Girl on the enemy team. Very, very good. Ninjara seemed to be the strongest from characters that I fought. As well as characters that I've played. There were some that I enjoyed more than others. I really gravitated a lot towards Mechanica and Twin Tail. But I didn't use every character, the same way. The Mummy could be like super OP because he can have 2 of the big, slow, heavy hitting things that could be really, really incredibly strong in a variety of game modes. Ninjara is super fast and he can do a ton of damage, and he can like poof into a vanished piece of smoke. So like, the way that the movement is also different on a fighter by fighter basis. And here the 2v2 is, it's whatever. There's not like a ton of strategy involved, but you can change your targets and whatnot, and we get business done here with Min Min and Twin Tail. So as far as like what's going to be the best, characters or the best whatever, we have no idea at this point. There's really no way to tell this early on in a brand new game that we only get to play an hour at a time for over a couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be figured out and probably figured out quite quickly. But overall, my impressions of the game is that, it's pretty fun. It's a moderate amount of fun. It definitely feels like a Nintendo game. It's very easy to pick up. Controls are smooth and very nice. The characters look pretty cool. They all seem to have their own kind of personality. I don't know what languages each of them speak or what nationalities they may or may not have. That seemed a little confusing to me. But, people are going to gravitate or not gravitate towards certain characters for one reason or another. So we aren't going to know, who's going to be the most popular, even though the internet really seems to love Twin Tail here for some obvious reasons. But overall, as far as what's going to be the best way to play the game or what characters are going to be the best, that's something that we're going to figure out when the game finally does come out. Am I going to buy the game or not, or should you? That really comes up, at least to me, where I want to allocate the few amount of dollars that I have for games, and what where I can allocate time to play that game that's not already been filled up by other things like, making videos and doing streams of things that people have grown accustomed for me to do. So I think it's a moderate amount of fun game. I liked that they had the global test punch, and it was pretty fun. I don't think I'll be getting it for myself per se, but I can definitely see the appeal. Very simple, easy to pick up and play, family friendly, a bunch of different modes. I'm sure there'll be even more things to do. in the game proper, as well as probably new arms and new character DLCs sometimes in the future. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the game. Let me know what you guys thought, whether you played it or you just watched people play it. The game comes out on June 16th, so if you want it, there's not that much long of a wait.